Yes, folks, the time is here. Nearly 8 months later, I'm finally getting around to telling you about the conclusion of the 2019 NCGOP state convention. And boy, let me just say that afternoon was one that's going to go down as one of the probably most memorable conventions, most chaotic, and probably one of the best, most fun conventions too. This event, I could tell the progression. There was sort of a progression of the crowd getting bigger and bigger, because I went to register on Thursday afternoon, and I was able to get a good parking spot out in one of the front 2 rows right by the lobby to the what's that place called? Embassy Suites Hotel and Convention Center Complex. I also was able to get a good parking spot on Friday morning too. But Saturday morning, I had to park there's this huge parking lot on the northwest corner of the property that faces towards Interstate 85. If you don't know anything about the area, this is Cabarrus County we're talking about, which is just a little north of Charlotte, and Interstate 85 is the major highway in this particular area. Okay. But Saturday, get there, I go to, do the morning session, get out for a lunch break, and there was a surprising number of people that did not go to the featured lunch, and I was one of them. I don't go. I've said this before, but I'll say it again for context purposes. I've only done the meal package once. In the, how many years have I done the convention? In the 6 times I've been to the convention, I only did the meal package one time. That was the first time ever. That was in 2011 when I was living in Wilmington, and the convention was in Wilmington. The speakers tend to be underwhelming, and the food and portion sizes of the food tend to be underwhelming. So that's why I don't do the meals. And I noticed a lot of other people were not doing the featured lunch. And I was walking around, and this is actually a fairly small hotel and convention center area, and it was hard finding a place to sit down for a few minutes and just eat some of my pretzel nuggets and drink some of my what do you call these things, right? These caffeinated great value lemonade drink substance or whatever. So I walked around the place probably 2 or 3 times. Finally was able to find a place to sit down and relax for a few minutes. And during the time I was relaxing, I was sort of multitasking. I was watching video that I shot that morning of out on the patio earlier that day. I was watching a video of myself talking about the convention, and I was also hearing people around what they were talking about, and most of the conversation was pertained to the convention. There were some interesting things. They weren't that interesting because 8 months later I've forgotten about them, but at the time they were, cool to hear. So Saturday now, okay, it gets to be about 1:30, 1:45. The afternoon session is supposed to start at 2 o'clock. And I start to find that this is going to be a very chaotic afternoon, because there are 3 doors to the convention hall. Okay, I was on the far left side of the convention hall, and most of the convention weekend, the far left door on the far left side of the convention hall was open. Okay. However, here it was now, the afternoon business session was getting ready to get started. For some reason, and I'll never know why, but for some unknown, out of this world reason, somebody had locked the door on the far left side. So you had all these people bottled up in the hallway was not very big. All these people bottled up in the hallway who were trying to get in the left door, but it was locked. So now you had the crowds for the center door and the left door combined, and it was just a huge cluster F of a traffic jam. Let me just say that. Now, usually, when I go to convention, I try to get to the convention hall at least 15-20 minutes before the start time. That way I can get a good seat. This case, because of somebody's negligence of having a door locked, I got there in my seat maybe 5-10 minutes before the convention was starting, and I got a pretty crappy seat. Like, almost all the seats in my delegation of Guilford County were filled up. Now, that can be a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing because we had like 55 delegates present for Guilford County, which is very good. But also, we had 3 rows, and it was like first row filled, second row. Now, the first row is the best row because you're right out in the main aisle. You have a lot more leg space. Then again, you also have a lot of people walking in front of you too. But still, you have more leg space, more room to spread in the first row. Second row is, you're not in the main aisle, so it's kind of a good thing. But you have less leg room because there's a chair right in front of you. That row was taken too. The third row was where Guilford County shared a row with another county. So I had to, go in that row and say, excuse me, I'm from Guilford County, just, wanted to let them know that, hey, I'm with Guilford County, and I belong there, because there was another county. That county happened to be Sampson County, which is down towards the south and east part of North Carolina. Now, I'll tell you something weird, okay? You ever have like an awkward moment in your life? Well, I did right then and there at the convention, okay? So I sit down in this row, which was shared between Guilford County and Sampson County, okay? And right next to me was a guy, and I knew who he was, I knew his name, but at the same time, I just didn't necessarily feel comfortable with, talking to him. Because this particular person was, I don't know if they still are, but a few years ago, go back to like 2013, okay, I was heavily involved with the Young Republicans down in the Wilmington area, okay. This man sitting next to me was heavily involved with the Young Republicans. He was heavily involved with the Young Republicans around Sampson County, and also made quite a few trips to Raleigh, because Sampson County is only like 45 minutes from Raleigh. Wilmington is like almost 2 hours from Raleigh. So, but towards the end of 2013, I had a falling out with the Wilmington chapter of the Young Republicans. And it was just basically based on something that I posted on my Facebook page. Now, keep in mind, at the time I was 27. I was still kind of in that young, immature phase of my life. And it was at that point in my life where, I used to post so much crap on Facebook. Way more than anybody needed to know about me, I posted on Facebook. And I posted something. I'm not going to really get into what it was. It was more personal than political. I'll tell you that. But I posted this on Sunday. This was like Sunday afternoon around 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Okay, so what happened was about 20 minutes later, I was in the bathroom. My phone had rung when I was in the bathroom, missed the call, but a guy had a voicemail, and it was from a local number. So I was like, okay, I better listen to the message because it's from a local number. Well, it's from let me put it this way, a high-ranking member of the Wilmington chapter of the Young Republicans. And basically, I was secretary of the Wilmington Young Republicans at the time. I was asked to resign because of my controversial comment on Facebook. It was kind of falling out. I didn't feel good about it. But now, 6-7 years later, I am back involved with the Young Republicans. And the good thing is that the same people that were involved in 2013, most of them are not involved anymore. This is kind of why the Young Republicans are a tough group to organize. Because a lot of them, they come out of college, 22, 23, they may stay somewhere for a few years, they get their first job, then they get promoted, and the promotion's in another city, in another state, so they do that, they move, and then they fall in love, get married, maybe they want to move again, and then have family, have babies, and So, anyway, sorry for going off on that tangent, but I just had to tell you that this was a big, awkward moment for me. So the guy sitting next to me didn't say anything. I didn't say anything to him, but still, I felt very awkward. But at the same time, I was able to focus on taking really good notes for this convention, and even nearly 8 months later, I can read about 98% of my sloppy handwriting, thank the good Lord. Okay, so let me get started here. We had a call to order 2:05 p.m., and then there was a message from Chairman Miller that said that the youngest delegate was 18 years old plus 5 days, and the oldest delegate was 99 years old. And the best thing about that was that they were both from the home county of the convention, Cabarrus County. And then we had Dearly Departed. If you don't know what Dearly Departed is, it's where the convention will have on the two big projector screens of the convention hall, they will run down a list of people, of activists in the party who have passed away over the past year will be on the list. And they'll have some, somber music playing. It's kind of like a little bit of a funeral time during the convention. Some notable people that passed away: Steve Herr, Rockingham County, a good friend of mine, man I've met before, is very principled, very conservative, and he's always been one of those a pain in the butt to the establishment, Raleigh, and that's a good thing. Then we have Congressman Walter Jones and Tom Stark, who served as legal counsel for the NCGOP for a number of years. Okay. Then we have our 2020 convention update from Russell Peck. And basically I was getting really excited about this update, but all he said was basically, we're still a year out from convention. There's not a lot of information yet. Just go to charlotteinTwenty20.com for more information and if you want to volunteer. Tim Moore, Speaker of the House, was next on the agenda. He talked about the Born Alive bill, saying that we need to elect more Republicans to overcome the Democratic vetoes. Senator Paul Newton spoke, said that we have 5 straight years of surpluses, and he said you can cut taxes and grow revenue at the same time. There's a myth out there by the Democrats that says that if you cut taxes, then you're going to lose revenue, and then you're going to have to, cut essential services, and that's just not the case. Also, it's been proven that the tax cuts over a 30-year period have shown that a person can earn $237,000 more over a 30-year period than with the Democrats, than over a lack of tax cuts, I should say. Okay. Also, they raised the standard deduction to $21,000. The goal of the legislature is now to abolish the franchise tax. Unfortunately, Governor Roy, the Cooper Pooper, is blocking that. He thinks that it's tax cuts, just tax cuts for the wealthy, but that is not true. Because if you abolish the franchise tax, then more companies will come to North Carolina, and then more companies means more jobs. More jobs means a more competitive labor market. A more competitive labor market means higher wages overall. Thank you very much. Then we have Judge Phil Berger running for Supreme Court judge for the state of North Carolina, of course. He just said that please, he needs money. $5,400 is the max for the individual contribution. He also said there's a Women for Berger group, that's Foreman. He also talked about Chris Dillon, who's running as an incumbent. Jefferson Griffin running for his first term. Jeff Carpenter of Union County running for his first term. April Wood of Davidson County running for her first term. Fred Gore running for his first term on the State Court of Appeals. Fred Gore is from Brunswick, Columbus County, somewhere there down east. Justice Paul Newby running for his third term as Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court. He says, look, follow the Constitution and let the process work. Remember, Scooby-Dooby, vote for Newby. In 2018, Barbara Jackson, the Republican nominee for Supreme Court Justice, raised $200,000. Now, it seems like an okay amount, but the Democrats and Anita Earls, who unfortunately won, by the way, you know how much they raised? $1.5 million. And then Justice Paul Newby had a final thought. He says, isn't freedom worth more than socialism? Well, yes, it is. Absolutely. Dan Forrest, candidate for governor, current lieutenant governor, has long-term vision. The greatest resource, he says, is people. He wants to protect our borders and build the wall. He is for free trade and fair trade. He says strengthen the military and stop bowing down to tyrants. And he says, did you know 6,000 jobs a month are created in North Carolina? That's a fun fact there. Now, by this time, it's 3:15 p.m. and credentials are not ready yet. What else is new, right? So, fortunately, though, we still have a few more speakers who can speak. And what I mean by this credentials thing, well, basically it's to certify delegates by county. If you don't have your delegates certified, or aka credentials report, you cannot proceed with business of the convention, which this afternoon the business is going to be electing of chair and vice chair for the party. Okay. So Dan Bishop, who at this time was a candidate for the 9th Congressional District, he eventually won his race, thankfully. He says we need someone who's going to defend Trump. He also says we need to end immigration at the southern border. I think that is a good thing. That even goes further than, what Donald Trump says. Trump says he wants to end illegal immigration, but keep legal immigration. I'd say that we need like a 5-year more moratorium on ending all immigration. Dan Bishop wants to fight for the Second Amendment. He says he's going to defend life in Congress. And he says he's not ashamed of his values. He's very proud of his values. Okay. His race was on September 10th, and he won that race, obviously. He said Dan McCready won't support Nancy Pelosi for Speaker, but he held a fundraiser for her number 2, Steny Hoyer. Ooh. And then we had a little message from Tom Tillis, and he just wanted to mention to us that getting out the vote is super important. In 2020, there's going to be 1 million more registered voters than there was in 2014, which was, of course, the last time Tom Tillis ran for the U.S. Senate. He does have a primary. And personally, the last year or so, he's been okay. He's aligned himself with Trump, but the previous 5 years he's been really wishy-washy and kind of rhino-y, if that's a word. So I'm taking a look at two of his opponents, either Larry Holmquist or Sharon Hudson, for the primary. Now, I want to be perfectly clear about something. Whoever is the Republican nominee in the November general election, that's who I'm going to vote for. If it happens to be Tom Tillis, then, although it'll be hard, although I'll show up to the voting booth really cranky, yes, if Tom Tillis is the Republican nominee in the November general election, then yes, I will vote for him. Okay, but in the primary, I'm a real prick, I tell you. I'm gonna vote for whoever I want, I tell you. Okay. Now, it's 3:53 p.m. The credentials are still not in order. Okay. Then we have 10 minutes pass, and then credentials are now in order, thankfully. Okay. Now, there's a question on the floor of the convention. And it's asked from Clark Porter of Guilford County. He wanted to know, can Marcus Kinley be seated? He says that he had a waiver from attending the county convention due to the death of his mother. And he has a long history of service to the party. Okay. However, the credentials chair, what's the guy's name? Oh, Jason Lemons and Billy Miller, the convention chair, says his name was left off the official county credentials report. Therefore, Marcus Kinley cannot be seated. Then we have Wayne Schaefer, who's the chair of Bladen County, says his name was left off the report, and he drove 4.5 hours to be at the convention. He woke up at 4:30 this morning to be at the convention. And then he was ruled out of order. Okay, so it should be noted that no names may be added after county conventions adjourn. Okay. Now, I talked about this a little bit in my 2020 What to Expect video. It is absolutely imperative that if you want to participate in the convention process, you must be registered as a Republican in the state of North Carolina by the close of business on January 31st. Then, after that, you must either A, attend your county convention, or B, fill out a waiver form and make sure that if you cannot attend the county convention, your county chairman gets your waiver form. Make sure you email them, call them, text them, make sure, hey, mister, do you have my waiver form? Did you get my waiver form? Okay, good. Because if you are not on your county's delegate list by the end of when your county convention meets in March, you will not be able to attend district convention, and you will certainly not be able to attend state convention. I don't care what kind of excuse or what reasoning you have. The state credentials committee is always going to turn you down if you do not follow the proper protocol. Got that? I hope you do. Thanks. Now at this time we have our first moment of chaos. Well, we've already had some chaos, but 13 cars needed to be moved because they were parked in the fire lane. So let me just say this. This convention, as well as the other conventions in the past, people have been able to register up and until the last minute. This year, though, in 2019, that plan backfired significantly because we didn't have enough parking at the venue. There was not enough seating at the venue. Oh, and by the way, the convention, this was like a 7-hour convention session that we were at on Saturday. 1 hour into the 7-hour session, the air conditioning system stops working. Because there's so many people and you have to keep turning up the AC to combat the hot air, right? It's crazy. So that's why hopefully, starting with the 2020 convention, they will stop allowing same day registration at the convention. They'll, set a deadline maybe 2 or 3 weeks before, because these conventions are starting to get popular again, and the state party really needs to see, how many people are attending so they don't run out of seats, and so they have enough parking at the particular convention venue as well. Okay. It should be noted that Gaston County and Watauga County will be voting on a paper ballot, because they ran out of devices at this convention. So they ran out of the little handheld voting devices. Okay. And then there is a motion to suspend the rules and move immediately to the officer election and bypass the Plan of Organization and Resolutions platform. And let's see, a point of information was on the floor from John McLean in Mecklenburg County. He says, "Can you please clarify the elections while we're voting on?" And Billy Miller said, voting on chair and vice chair. By the way, the motion to suspend the rules and proceed to the elections passes. But then we have a delay at 4:51 p.m. Then there's a lady from Wake County who reminds the convention body that resolutions are going to need to be voted on after the elections. You still have resolutions after the officer elections. Very good point, because so many people, as soon as the officer elections are done, people flee out of the convention hall and we lose quorum, and then the resolutions and other unfinished business gets booted to the executive committee, so less people will have an opportunity to vote on the party business. Okay, now time for nominations. First, we have Mark Keith Robinson of Guilford County nominating Jim Womack for chair. His nomination speech, he says the party did groundbreaking things in the 1860s. They passed the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment and had the real civil rights movement. But then in 1877, the party faced a crossroads. Did they want to continue to fight at the ground level or sit back and relax in Washington, D.C.? Well, unfortunately, the GOP chose to relax in Washington, D.C. Robinson said, "We do need lawyers and lobbyists. However, in our front and middle, we need a warrior." And Robinson became a Republican to protect the Republic. Okay. Oh, yeah. And then we have Carl Miska of Craven County. Seconded Womack's nomination. Lee Haywood had third support of nomination from Guilford County, as well as Gay Dillard. A fourth nomination. Okay. Carl Miska, 3rd District Chair. Lee Haywood, 6th District Chair. And Gay Dillard, 13th District Chair. Okay. And then we have our first kind of shocker. Like, I thought Buck Newton was more of a Tea Party guy, but he's actually more of an establishment guy. And he decided to speak the nomination speech for Michael Whatley, also run for chair against Jim Womack. Buck Newton says, "We do not need passionate speeches, only we need grassroots support." And I think that was just a real classless, just a terrible low blow at Mark Robinson. Just absolutely pitiful. Buck Newton says, "Whatley was everywhere in North Carolina for Trump in 2016. Michael Whatley did more for my campaign than Hillsborough Street ever did." Then Pat Smith seconded the nomination of Whatley. She's from Gaston County. Buck Newton, by the way, Wilson County. John Seward, 9th District Chair from Union County, also supported the nomination of Whatley, as well as Tina Forsberg of Guilford County for Michael Whatley. As you can see, Guilford County in this convention was definitely a hodgepodge of different support for different candidates. Very interesting. But I'll have you know, that Jim Womack won Guilford County by a huge margin of 31-16. So, by the way, I'll say this about Tina Forsberg, who's a good friend of mine. I got a call from Tina on the convention started on Friday that week. That Monday of that week, I got a call from Tina asking me if I could support Michael Whatley for chair. I told her, I said, appreciate your phone call, but ever since Jim Womack decided to run in February, I've been behind Jim Womack. I think that what he did and what he's doing in Lee County, and he's raising a lot of good points, would be helpful for the party. Tina did have a good argument about, well, Sanford is a lot different from Greensboro. Do you really think that Jim Womack will be able to do good things in Greensboro? You know, and I just thought about that big picture. I think Jim Womack would do good things for Greensboro. But, okay. Hold on a second. Okay, now, what I'm about to tell you is probably the most shocking moment of the entire convention weekends. You ready for this? Are you ready? You sure, right? John Lewis was the third candidate run for chair. Okay. He originally ran the run for vice chair, but then his buddy Robin Hayes got caught with his hand in the cookie jar and had a lot of problems. So John Lewis decided to run for chair. It's not really the fact that John Lewis ran for chair is a shocker. It's who did his nomination speech. It is, well, it's a guy who I've always had a lot of respect and admiration for. I remember being at a Central Committee meeting way back in 2014, and this particular person was the chair, or still is, of Gates County. He brought some great ideas that mean about how we need to go to different businesses around our community and find out if they're conservative or not, and if they are, ask them for donations. Well, there were a couple people in the crowd there who I could hear off in the distance kind of snicker at this particular person, sort of very, very lightly kind of giggle at this particular person's idea, like, oh, that'll never work. Oh, that's so outside the box. How dare he? But at the time, I thought this person was a rock star for the Republican Party, a rising star. Fast forward 5 years later, I am stunned, absolutely stunned, floored, and very disappointed when this person decided to support John Lewis over Jim Womack. Now, who's this person I'm talking about? Thomas Hill. Gates County is a very rural. It's a very, it's always been a very heavy Democrat county, although the Republicans are definitely starting to make good ground there, and it actually flipped in 2016 for Trump, from blue to red. But this county, Gates County, is a lot like Lee County, where Jim Womack is, and the town of Gatesville is a little bit smaller than Sanford, but still, it's still a small town, and you need a very involved, a very active, very passionate chair, and up to this point, I thought Thomas Hill was doing a great job. But then he decided to speak for John Lewis. Now, his speech for John Lewis, I thought was okay. He said that, Thomas Hill's an inspiring lawyer, and John Lewis is a lawyer, and I guess Thomas Hill thought of John Lewis as a role model. I guess on one sense, yeah, but at the same time, this person is so closely aligned to Robin Hayes. Why would you want to park your vote with somebody so close to Robin Hayes when you've been, active in the party for the last 5 years as an anti-Hayes crusader. That to me did not add up. Thomas Hill said Lewis is a uniter, a steady hand. Don't know about that. Lewis has fundraising experience, grassroots experience. That may be true. He did win the trial against Chris Anglin. Chris Anglin was this candidate who ran as a second Republican against Barbara Jackson in the Barbara Jackson-Anita Earl Supreme Court race. Unfortunately, Chris Anglin was able to steal enough votes away from Barbara Jackson that Barbara Jackson got defeated by the ultra-liberal Anita Earls in that race. And then a gentleman from Cabarrus County also nominated John Lewis. John Lewis is also home in Cabarrus County, so that doesn't sound too surprising. Clark Porter of Guilford County then nominated John Lewis as well. So Guilford County, in each race for chair, and I think even for vice chair, there was at least one person from Guilford County who decided to make their opinions known. It's pretty cool, pretty interesting. John Lewis gave a speech. He used portions of a Teddy Roosevelt speech. He said Christie fell just a few hundred votes short of victory in Wilson County. He also said that Ben York fights for every vote in a GOP-controlled county. That's Alamance County. Ben York is the chair of Alamance County. Cabarrus County, they beat a sit-in Democrat judge, also elected the first ever Register of Deeds recently, and John Lewis also turned around the troubled victory office as the chair of Cabarrus County as well. Jim Womack's speech. He first thanked opponents, thanked Mark Robinson, and thanked all the veterans out there. He says he wants to create a veterans caucus at the state party, thanked all the GOP delegates in attendance, and said, last, most importantly, I thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Since 2014, the trajectory in our party has not been good. We have lost a lot of folks, a lot of activists. He says, I'm tired of losing. I'm never going to let you down. Trump, Forrest, and Dale Folwell, who was a folk hero here in this state, we're going to win also District 3 and District 9, but we're not going to win at 1506 Hillsborough Street. I want to be a full-time chair. I'm a proven fundraiser. I'm an expert in IT and social media. I'm a military-style leader. And also, I hope the digital studio is complete later this month at headquarters. Michael Wiley. Probably one of the worst speeches that I've ever heard from a chair candidate. He said for the 36,000th time during the 2019 convention cycle that we need a reset in Raleigh. Have you ever watched back in the 90s and early 2000s, there was this guy named Robert Smigel on Saturday Night Live. And they used to do a segment called Fun with Real Audio, where they take one of the most they take a politician or they take a late night comic, like Tom Snyder was one of John Lovitz. Yeah, that's the ticket. And he just says it over and over again. And he might be taking a crap, he might be naked, he might be in a jungle somewhere, but yeah, that's the ticket. Well, this Michael Wiley's "We Need a Reset" rally, that reminded me of the Robert Smigel Fun Through Audio. He could be, Michael Wiley could be at a restaurant somewhere, and the waitress might ask him, "Welcome to Applebee's. What would you like?" We need a reset in Raleigh. I'd like to order a reset in Raleigh. It's just funny, right? And then, of course, he did the same old tired Jesse Helms high school story. Talked about how much he was involved in the Bush and Trump campaigns. Okay, that's all fine and good, but does he have any experience in a county party, running a district party? I mean, that's stuff that I really wish the convention, all the people that voted for Wiley would have considered, because he did not have any experience with that coming into this job. Oh, by the way, we have a delay at 5:30 because they are preparing to tow cars now, because those 13 people who are parked illegally did not move. Okay. But it should be noted that the votes were tallied, okay, and Michael Watley won, believe it or not, on first ballot, okay. Even though Jim Womack got more raw votes, Michael Watley won because of this conspiracy theory called weighted voting. I hate weighted voting. Why? Because it does not take into account the one delegate, one vote theory. Now, what I would suggest is doing away with weighted voting and going to more of a electoral county system. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, each county huddles up and they take a vote on who they want for chairman. Okay, so let's say Guilford County had 31 votes for Womack and 16 votes for Michael Watley. Well, in the grand scheme of things, they would get one. It would read Guilford County would get a vote for Jim Womack. Okay, whoever won the most counties statewide is chair. If there's a tie, like if Guilford County was 31-31, tie between Womack and Watley, then each candidate would get half a point. So it would be half a point for Watley, half a point for Womack. But whoever won, got more points in the counties, that would be who the chairman or vice chairman would be. Okay. So at 5:55 p.m., there was a motion to suspend the rules and go back to paper ballots. Kelsey Brown of Montgomery County, 8th District Chair, made this motion. It failed overwhelmingly. But I supported Kelsey Brown's viewpoint there, because these electronic things were causing all kinds of problems. Just go to paper ballots already. You're just taking too much time here. And also a personal thought I had at the time was, why didn't we use the devices more than one time? Why didn't we use these devices during the Friday afternoon or Saturday morning business session, give people some practice? The convention just decided, okay, we're just going to dump these devices on people. And the most important vote in 2 or 3 years, we're going to let people use these things for the first time, rather than have people practice throughout the weekend and get them used to the equipment. They did not do that. Okay. And then we had a point of information from Franklin County. I believe, I don't know who this was, but they said, are the numbers assigned to our badges attached to the data? And Billy Miller said, only the first 5 digits, the county code, are known. So no, people are not going to know who you're voting for, which is a good thing, privacy. Okay. Michelle of Lake County says, can the working devices vote and then reset and other people use them? 6:03, we ended the delay for the technical difficulty, but more devices were not working, so we were delayed a couple more times. Then we started to vote for the chair, but then there was another delay because a delegate from Wake County had just come from the ER and needed a device. Okay, but then by 6:43 p.m. the vote was taken. Michael Watley was elected chair, and he talked about electoral priorities for 2020. Okay, so that is part 1 of Saturday afternoon's business session. In part 2, I'm going to talk to you about the vice chair race and how that wound up. Okay, so for now I'm going to say goodbye and talk to you soon.